This is Ian Schaefer here with UDA Technologies, and today we're going to be talking about CS Cloud and some of the great enhancements that we're going to be making for this new service that we offer as we approach our second year of having this tool available. Here joining me today for our webinar is Jordan Davis, another of our senior product specialists.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here today.
And of course, as always, Sydney Dorsey will be joining us for questions today. She's going to be fielding any questions that you guys might have about maybe adopting this technology or some comparisons that we're going to be making between a cloud-hosted server and tools like VPNs or remote connection software like LogMeIn or GoToMyPC or something like that. We're going to do a little bit of pros and cons as we talk about these as well. And of course, all of this is designed to help you make better, more informed decisions about the types of tools that are right for you and your company. Now, of course, most of this information that we're providing today is going to come from our experience working with most of these different tools over the past many, many years. With almost 700,000 users now in the UDA ecosystem, we're starting to see more and more need for tools that allow you to access all of your data and, most importantly, business-critical software from everywhere you happen to be. Now, these are the most common types that we see as well. Cloud-hosted servers like ours in our partnership with Amazon Web Services. Some companies will still use tools like VPNs or the remote connection software as well, especially companies that are a little bit smaller and think that it's just one or two people who need to gain access. We'll talk about why that might not be the best idea. But of course, our primary focus here is to answer your questions. To help with that, we need to know what those questions are. So of course, as we're going through this quick webinar today, I'd appreciate it if you take a moment to look at the GoToWebinar panel. There should be an area on there marked questions. And if you do have any questions about what we're going through today, just click in there, type out your questions, send them our way, and Sydney will either answer them for us or flag them for myself and Jordan to be able to handle as we're going through the webinar. Now, as we're getting started though, of course, CS Cloud is one of these tools that we've made available primarily because our clients have been asking us for years about this. And we've tried a number of different sources, and what we found and what we decided was a few years back, Amazon seemed to provide the most price-effective, fastest, most effective solutions that we could find. Ultimately, what that looks like here is just, it's a computer within your computer. It's completely cloud-hosted, and as you're working with this as a solution, you'll actually be able to log in from any kind of device with any kind of access point. So your phones will work, computers would work, laptops, and we've set these up to allow most of the information that you need to have access to be available on here as well. But before we dive into how it works, Jordan, could you take a moment maybe to talk about some of our clients who are already using these services and some of the success that they found with it over the past almost 2 years now?
Yeah, absolutely. Ian, I've worked as one of our cloud services consultants for pretty much since we started to offer the service, back before we really had found what I would consider to be some of the common use cases out. We just knew that people really wanted to access their enterprise or desktop software from wherever they were. And they were hamstrung by their, in some cases, requirements to travel, to meet different clients across state or sometimes even country lines. And what we had traditionally fallen back on was some of the tools that we knew were proven to work, but maybe weren't the best experience. And well, what we have found is that with Amazon Web Services, their hosting platform is so fast and so responsive that clients now are able to do things like travel from Colorado down to Texas, for instance, and close $3 million worth of contracts because they're able to actually access their contracts and templates and pricing and close people on the spot. So that's just one of many examples. I've worked with people who wanted to open ConstructionSuite or access QuickBooks on the road, but everything was back in the office, but they just happened to bring a Microsoft Surface tablet with them. Or in some cases, they brought their handy-dandy, trusty, portable iPad mini with them. And the thing is, it's the same access, it's the same software. There's nothing really different about it at all, except for the device that's right in front of you. And, the system does such a great job of scaling and controlling things for you that you don't have to worry about, that you really don't have to hire some type of outside managed IT service solution to configure the actual the viewport for you. It handles a lot of the heavy lifting for you and for us, really. It's a fantastic platform, and it's working really well for clients right now.
Yeah, and some of the kind of best side effects that I've seen from this as well, we've got a lot of companies that are working with us right now, a lot of current clients who are able to completely decentralize their companies and their organizations. And what I mean by that is some of us will have a headquarters, a central office or a main office, maybe even a shop that we usually go to at the beginning of the day. We'll have our meetings there. Everybody kind of comes together. We talk about what has to happen for the week or whatever it is, and then everybody goes on about their business. What I've seen as the best side effect to CS Cloud so far, we've got a lot of companies that completely eliminate the overhead of having an office. There isn't one. What they're able to do instead, since everything is hosted here through our partnership with Amazon, they're able to just meet up anywhere. They could find a coffee shop or some local breakfast place to have those morning meetings if they choose to. Same as you said, Jordan, they're all able to just pull open laptops or phones or tablets if they need to access anything. And then, again, they can all just kind of move on. What we've also seen with some of these tools is people will start to host meetings like this one, like a GoToMeeting style thing instead. So you don't even have to spend the time to come together in this case. And this is some of the best side effects to working with a decentralized server like these. You're able to kind of eliminate some of that overhead and some of that additional kind of sunk cost to how businesses used to be forced to operate by modernizing some of the tools and the resources that you have available, like moving to the cloud. Now, Jordan, as you're kind of working through this as well, what we're focusing on right now, we've actually set up today one of the newer servers with the newer options and tool sets that Amazon has to offer. They've released a completely new style of server that's faster and stronger than any of the previous faster and stronger servers that they have. I think this one actually uses the brand new AMD series processors that were just released as of a month ago. The reason I bring this up is because traditionally, if you're working with an in-house server, every so often that server is going to require major updates, which means the IT guys are probably going to have to come in and run those updates for you, and it's going to take you offline for a while. And then sometimes maybe some of the hardware in that server is going to kind of slowly start to fade or degrade or something like that. With Amazon Web Services and with all these hosting capabilities that we have, that is a non-issue. As hardware starts to become a little bit older or deprecated, Amazon actually reaches out to us directly if it fails to meet their standards, which is super strict, by the way. They have to keep all of these things running within 1 or 2% of peak efficiency for that to meet their base standards. If it ever starts to slip, we get notifications that your server is not the best it could possibly be. And then within seconds, we can actually move you to a newer, more up-to-date server. Now, I don't know if any of you have been server shopping recently. God, I hope not. But if you have, you've probably seen that a lot of IT consulting companies would charge somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe $8,000 to $10,000 for a proper business server. Even if it's a small business server, it could still be somewhere in the neighborhood of a few $1,000s. With this, we can make that transition onto brand new hardware and it doesn't cost you a penny. All of those kind of updates and upgrades can happen in near real time as well. In fact, what Amazon advertises, not only do they have a global reach, which means that you can get back to this anywhere you go in the world. You'd be able to access this, and they have something like, I believe it's at this point, it's over 50 different edge locations. Or maybe it's 70 different edge locations at this point. What that means is the Amazon services, these cloud-hosted services that we offer, it's going to behave as if it's no more than a couple of 100 miles away, no matter where you are. Now, as a cloud-hosted solution, this means that there's going to be no lag time, zero lag time. If you're in South Africa, you can access your server in zero lag time. If you're on vacation in Thailand, again, even if your home base is in Virginia, zero lag time. If you go down to Antarctica, well, I think that's probably about the stretch. There might be a couple of seconds of lag time max. But again, you start to think about that, and it's got a complete global reach. Most of the other systems like Rackspace or Cloud9, they're typically located within the United States, they've got one or two locations maybe. And what's really interesting about that is if one or two of those, since they've got physical locations like that, if there's ever bad weather or some anomalous situation or anything could happen, it only takes one act of God to take them out completely. With Amazon, since they've got locations at this point over 14 different complete regions with 6 or 7 different redundant server locations on each, you've got what they were advertised as 11 nines of uptime. That means 99.999999999% of the time, your server is going to be available. It seems like a ridiculous number, but in this case, there's no chance that it's going to be going away.
Yeah, and that bears out in our experience as well. In fact, we haven't seen any server downtime from Amazon's side at all, period. Mm-hmm. The entire time. That's 2 years worth of time that we've been working in Amazon Web Services, and neither ourselves nor our clients have really experienced any downtime at all from Amazon servers. Now, there might be a question sometimes with the specific person's device, but again, the server is always going to be there for you. But that brings up a really great point about Amazon servers. They are far more reliable than anything that you will ever probably own in your entire lifetime. Maybe, unless you own like a block of wood, but then you have to protect it from catching on fire, right? Well, in a lot of ways, Amazon servers are absolutely protected from fire and water damage. And on top of that, it protects your data, it protects your software, it protects everything that you use to run your company on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And what we mean by that is, if we were to, right now, lose power to our office from, say, a pretty bad weather storm or something like that, so we lose connection to the server here. Well, not only does that not shut down everything on the server, but everything that's contained inside of the server itself is preserved not only by backups regularly that we've scheduled, but also by Amazon themselves, who will continue to back up and protect both your data, our data, and pretty much everybody's data. When it comes to Amazon servers, it's not just about the reliability when you need it in time. It's also the added protection of their security protocols they have in place, their incredible dedication to backups and reliability. And what you'll also find is that after a certain point, you're not going to be concerned about losing your data whatsoever.
And now, along those lines too, just as far as the server itself is concerned, most of us have had a piece of hardware that starts to get old after time. Again, with Amazon Web Services, this is never an issue. They're constantly upgrading and updating. They're always providing the latest resources and tools, and you don't have to move on from that. We take care of most of that. Now, the benefit to this too is we, as a software company, we tend to be the software experts. So we were talking earlier about the business critical applications that you may be using. And generally, when we talk about business critical applications, we mean the things like ConstructionSuite, QuickBooks, PlanSwift, or eTakeoff, or you might even have some CAD tools or something like that you guys decide to host with CS Cloud. You may also be using, I see some questions here about the Microsoft Office platform. If you're an Office 365 subscriber, this could be one of the locations that you have an installation on. So you can put it here, you could still access your Outlook and everything like that. All of that information would be here as well, so we could actually provide all of those tools and resources here. One of the updates that we've actually started doing over the past couple of years would be to adjust the default suite of software that's also going to be available for everybody. Most of us don't think about the kind of software that we need day to day because most of it just kind of runs in the background, like your Adobe Reader, or some people have different preferences on browsers, especially with the new version of Edge that just came out, the Chromium-based guy. All of these different things we load by default. We also set the servers up so that they can print to all of your local resources, again, as part of that initial setup, so you never have to think about it. What that means then is if you're taking the computer and you're working, like you're moving to a client's location, and you are having a negotiation with the client about the estimate information that you need to put together, you can open up the estimate from their home or their office or wherever you happen to be meeting. You can make some real-time adjustments to the estimate. You could then go into and generate a brand new proposal for them. And if they've got a printer right there, you could just print it off for them. And if they don't, then you could just take the laptop over to Kinko's or Best Buy doesn't do it, Office Max or Office Depot or whoever else has a printing service in your area. You can just run through that proposal process. We'll use option 1 because why not? Still has all of my settings.
Well, if we weren't in cloud hosting webinar, maybe we would talk about why you'd pick option 2 or 3. But for today's conversation,
for another time perhaps. Now, and again, as you're going through this, you can generate these proposals on the fly during the negotiation. Then from here, we could actually just go up to the file menu and print to whatever local printers and devices we have available or accessible. Now, I don't normally print, so it's probably not going to... Oh, no, it did. There's our printer here in the office. So I guess, spoiler alert, guys, we use an HP LaserJet printer. And as you're working through, if you wanted to go ahead and print it off, we could do it right now. We can share it. We can also send it out via email as we need to and everything like that as well. As a side note to this, if we just want to save this document and download it, perhaps to, I see another question here about local drives or devices. We actually configure the connections to the CS Cloud to be able to pass any of your local resources from any of the devices that you connect from as well. Now, what I've done in this case is I've actually set up a shortcut to one of the document folders on my local computer. Now, this document folder is where I keep a lot of the PDFs and like you might have permits or anything like that. I've got a lot of clients who actually have a file server available in their office. We could actually just map that location here as well so that you can access all of those documents. In fact, some of my clients will also work with things like Dropbox. For those clients, I would recommend setting up an additional drive that we could just plug in to the server whenever you need. We can configure Dropbox to go right there. And then from here, you can actually pull up any of the files and documents that you guys would need to use. Or if you ever want to create a new shortcut, you'll see all of your local devices available here. My local computer name, by the way, is Germany, which is why it's saying C on Germany and D on Germany. But as you're kind of working through that, you can create shortcuts to any of your local resources. You can make all of this information available to you on the cloud so that as you're kind of working through this, there's never a hurdle or a hiccup or any consistency issues or concerns. And again, you can just start dragging and dropping back and forth between cloud-hosted server and local resources as you like. This is, again, all available in the cloud now, so as I'm pulling this information up, we could still do the same thing if we needed to. We can go through and make some changes or adjustments, or we can send it out or whatever you need to from here. But again, all online, all available all the time. Now, what this also does is it allows you to do things like, as we're installing ConstructionSuite and QuickBooks and everything like that, you can have a bookkeeper that's located out of your office who doesn't have to travel to your office to be able to get into and update some of the transactions. QuickBooks would be hosted, your company files would be hosted, so ConstructionSuite and QuickBooks are talking whenever you need them. You can also share this information, like share a login with your accountant, so when tax season comes around, if they need to get in and access some of your information, you don't have to check out an accountant copy of QuickBooks anymore. All you have to do is give them access to the server so they can pull all the information they need to whenever they are free. This means that the traditional method that QuickBooks implements, whenever you've got that accountant copy out, it kind of locks down about half of the functionality of QuickBooks, so nothing major changes while they're trying to figure out what your tax is for the year. In this case, you never have that lock. It doesn't exist. And the accountant could go in and work with this whenever they need to, whenever they have time, and you don't have to pay them that extra fee for driving out to your office and back again. Once again, it simplifies that, it cuts back on a lot of those costs, and it lets them do it when it's most convenient, which for a lot of the accountants that I've worked with actually means that you're going to be getting a favorable client rate, which may be a little bit different than some of the quote-unquote favorable client rates that we've given to people in the past. This is actually a good one, a discount, because again, you're making it easier for them and not harder.
I do think it is important to emphasize that this connection to the cloud server is practically device independent. This works very well on both macOS, Windows-based environments, iPads, iPhones. I had someone tell me that they absolutely had to be able to access this information on their phone because they were that busy at that point in time in their business cycle, and that it actually was helping him answer questions on a daily basis once we had the system up and running. It's definitely doable. I think that he's a very brave person, but I'll tell you, if you actually look at the remote desktop connection app on, say, one of the newer iPhones, it has a slightly larger screen size. You can actually zoom in. It has a simulated mouse. It's pretty user friendly. So if you have any questions about that, we'd be happy to tell you what other people have experienced. We could even show you a trial. These things are really easy for us to configure and set up. In fact, I think that our turnaround time for hosted server and really helping you move all of your information over is, bar none, probably the best in the industry. I think it's very, very simple. We have this down to a science. We understand what our programmatic needs are. We understand what ConstructionSuite needs in order to move it across. We understand what it takes to move QuickBooks across, which is a very simple backup process. It's like maybe 3 or 4 clicks, something like that. And then you just drag and drop or copy and paste, something like that. But we could absolutely have you up and running in record times. Ian, what would you estimate would be a reasonable time frame for moving somebody to the cloud?
Well, most of these take us, at this point, maybe an hour or 2 to set up, tops. That's from the point that you call to the point that it's ready to hand off. I think what's kind of most interesting to me about that is what's always taken us the longest is getting the list of people who need to be able to access it, the user list, and the programs that you guys want and the keys and things like that. So basically, if you call us, from the moment that you call us, we're waiting on you for anything else that you might need. But the beauty of this is, since we're handling most of the setup and the implementation for you, you can actually get access to the server while we're doing some of the installation. So you guys could actually be in there and you could be, taking a look around and getting familiar with your new server while we're installing PlanSwift or while we're restoring your ConstructionSuite backup or whatever it might be. So again, as you're kind of running through that, you'll have access to all of this information as soon as you're ready, and you can just kind of continue moving on from there as well. Now, to kind of back to Jordan's point earlier about the connections from various different devices, you are actually able to connect to this from everything. If you're using a Mac, like whatever kind of device, you'll still be able to download Remote Desktop. You can use that. From Windows machines, Remote Desktop works well. There's a number of different connection types that we offer, like AWS Connect as well, to simplify the process if you don't want to have to think about it too hard. Or if you've got somebody in your office who you're concerned might struggle a little bit to work with this, those tools like AWS Connect simplify the connection process even more than before. So again, as you're kind of working through it, you'll be able to connect to it as easily as you might use everything else in your company. It even works on, as Jordan mentioned, Android phones and tablets, iOS phones and tablets, iPhones and things like that. Even if you're one of the last hangers on with a Windows phone. I think I saw one of our longtime clients who has been using them in the past. Even those work fantastically well. Or a BlackBerry or anything like that. Basically anything that can connect to the internet works great for this. So I guess then, as we're kind of pulling in a little bit further, the big question probably for a lot of us is still going to be, how does this compare to something like, again, a VPN or a remote connection or like a remote screen share tool? Well, first of all, we'll kind of talk about VPNs. They've been around for a while, and they seem really, really advantageous until you start to kind of break down the usage for the VPN. Now, for those of you guys who are not familiar with it, VPN is a virtual private network. It works just like your router in the office, except that it's all internet-based. And what that means then is your local computer connects to some virtual, like a website, that connects then to your server back in the office. And maybe even your home office as well. You might have a computer there that's also connected to the same VPN. As you're kind of connecting all these different tools together, you could then log into the server's ConstructionSuite database from your laptop as you're traveling around, so long as you've got that data connection. And you can then pull files and you can update information and everything like that. VPNs tend to be the first option that most companies go to because they're very inexpensive to set up. If you went with something like the Windows built-in VPN or something like a Hamachi, you'd be able to get started with one of those either at a really, really low cost or maybe even no cost. But the hurdle that you always run into with a VPN is, first of all, the connection is very unreliable. And any time that you might catch just a tiny hiccup in your connection, either you're working on the laptop and your phone goes to sleep for a second, so your hotspot cuts off for a brief moment, that's it. You got to reconnect and you got to go through this elaborate ordeal. You'll also find that most of those VPNs tend to be pretty slow. Even the hardware VPNs that you guys might have set up, they tend to be a little bit slower. And the easiest place to notice that is when you're actually saving something like an estimate. Now, for most of us, as we're working through the estimate save process, that estimate save is probably going to be, on average, somewhere in the 10-second range, I believe. That's kind of within the scope of what we expect. But as we're kind of looking through this, directly on the cloud, once you make your changes, you're saving a template, so that's going to be a little bit different. But as you're making your adjustments and everything like that, your save process is going to be much, much faster. You're talking about a second or two for a pretty big, elaborate estimate as you're working through these. If you're working through a VPN, our expectation is that save process is going to be on the order of minutes, not seconds. Because again, it's got to take the whole lot of information and it's got to upload everything to this remote server. It's got to verify that the server information is good, that the result that it got is accurate, and then it's got to take all of that information again and then download it back to your target location through the VPN. It's got to go through the same checks. Is it good data? Did we lose anything? If it's packet loss, we got to start over. But as long as it's made it, you're okay. But then we've got to send the VPN hub a notification that we're good, and then back to your computer notification that we're good. And again, minutes. If you're running a report, minutes. If you're sending out, again, any data or anything like that, it takes time. And so what you're not spending in money initially to get these things set up, you're spending in time because you're sitting there always waiting, always watching the pinwheel. We always joke about Buildertrend because the favorite feature in Buildertrend is this little pinwheel of death. You see that a lot through things like VPNs as you're working with them. And as we're doing some of the things that Jordan is working on right now, these are kind of some of the things that just become almost unbearable if you were working on a VPN. With a cloud-hosted server like this one, it's all done server-side, so you don't have to wait for anything. You're just seeing the screen and working with the result. Now, of course, this brings us to the second one. Some of you guys have worked with screen sharing software in the past. Again, we mentioned LogMeIn because they especially just acquired Citrix, the Citrix tools. Our big two were always LogMeIn or GoToMyPC, but maybe you're using something like TeamViewer or Remote Share or something like that. Could be any of these kind of, I'm just going to take the screen from the remote computer and I'm going to pull that in. So some of you may be working with tools like this, and again, same thing. They tend to be relatively inexpensive, more than you would pay for a VPN, less than you would pay for maybe like a cloud-hosted server. So as you're looking through there, still have great benefits. Unlike the VPN, when you're using the remote connection tool, you're actually using the server or the host. Again, what this means is whenever you log in, all your data's there. You'll be able to open up and access everything. There is definitely some lag time. Most often you'll see this with like a couple of second delay on clicks, or if you're typing, sometimes you'll be typing and it takes a second for all the information to pull up. So if you were to put in some just standard verbiage like this, as you're typing, that sentence might show up after you're finished typing the sentence. That's pretty standard behaviors for some of the remote connection software. Even if your server speed is fast and your internet connection is fast, it still has to pass all of this information around a lot. This is kind of one of those, you're going around your elbow to get to your server, and it takes time. So once again, the biggest, most expensive part of these remote connection tools is the time you spend. Now, the other interesting thing about them too is for those of you guys who've used something like LogMeIn or TeamViewer, you probably have seen some pretty poor quality visual. The screen that it's passing back and forth, you could probably get better video quality from a potato. It's not great, and sometimes if you're doing anything that requires some very kind of sensitive work, it's not going to be a great experience. So again, what you're gaining in not spending as much money on something like a remote connection tool, you're losing by the amount of time that you wait and the amount of resources that you're expending to get the job done. And sometimes it's your patience that breaks first. Now, with both the VPN and the remote connection software, one of the other hurdles that you're going to run into is what happens if you disconnect. If the internet hiccups and you lose your connection, with a VPN, all of your work is lost. It's gone. And so when that happens, whatever you happen to be working on gets reset. Now, of course, we offer a lot of tools to help with this. We've got autosave built in, and we've got all these kind of great resources and everything. In fact, with ConstructionSuite 10, we've even added a new recovery section to ConstructionSuite, which would allow you to go back and get an earlier version of an estimate if the VPN failed in the middle of saving one. So if you've ever been in that situation where you get a half an estimate, that's usually getting your network connection dropped. With a VPN, it's going to happen more than once. So we give you now this recovery section to help make up for that. It's still a pain in the rear, though, to have to go through and do this from time to time. And with the remote connection software, if you disconnect, let's just say it happens, all of the things that you were working on are gone. With CS Cloud, if you disconnect, well, your session is still there on a different screen. And when you reconnect, you are exactly where you left off. No loss. Which means that, if you're working and your internet cuts out, no problem. You pick up exactly where you left off. In fact, by default, I think we set these to give you a couple of hours to get back up and running again. In fact, even that's flexible. So if you guys have questions or concerns, you want to keep these things running, let us know. We can adjust that so that it will keep your user profile running basically as long as you might need. The other nice part about this too, unlike a lot of the remote connection tools, you can't share. One person gets it at a time. These servers that we have are actually set up and specifically structured for small teams. Team being the key word there, you're going to have a couple of people who want to get in here and work at the same time, and with these kind of resources that we have available, you can easily do that. Now, of course, that brings us to the discussion about some of the new plans. Actually, before we get in that, we got to talk about the benefits here to the CS Cloud. I'm starting to move a little bit faster than the script. But so as we're looking through this, of course, we're looking at VPNs. They're cheap, but unreliable and kind of slow. Cheap is the best pro. It also allows you to connect a number of different computers, but you have to set up that connection on every single device, and it doesn't really work from mobile devices. Tablets and iPhones, VPNs don't really help. Sometimes for file sharing, maybe. But that's about the best you've got. With the remote connection software, same thing. Usually it's a little bit easier to get launched, but they tend to be a little bit less expensive. Sometimes with like a LogMeIn or a GoToMyPC, you just go to the website, you log in, you download the tool, you run it. It allows you to connect. Maybe they have an app. Maybe the app even works. And if it does, then you'd be able to access it still on a tablet. Still a little bit less reliable. And again, as I mentioned before, kind of potato quality. Not my favorite. We've moved a little bit past that, and since most of us are dealing with visuals, especially for sales, you don't want to show somebody something that looks like it was, on the old tube TVs from the 80s. It's much better if you can show them something sharp and professional like this, which you could do, actually, if you're logging into the client computer. With the rest of these, especially with something like AWS Connect, that you can launch from anything. With the remote desktop connection tool, you can have that available from anywhere. Again, it's still going to be a download and a quick install, but we'll send you all of the files that you need. For Windows and Mac users, the setup for that takes maybe a couple of seconds, and most of you will just download and save an attachment like this one, where we've pre-configured everything that you need. We've even set it up to share local resources like any drives that you guys might connect at a later date. Printers, of course, pass. The clipboard will pass, so you can copy and paste. And even, again, the plug-and-play devices, if you plug in a thumb drive later, well, it's going to show up on the remote server just like it would on your local computer. So again, all this information is always going to be available to you. And with the CS Cloud offer that we have available, We also, Jordan, you kind of mentioned this one earlier, we manage all of the updates for you guys. We'll take care of all of the QuickBooks updates, the ConstructionSuite updates. You just give us a call if you guys ever need any updates completed. We'll also take care of any new installs that you guys have or any troubleshooting that you guys may run into. If you can't figure something out, again, we're here to help. So we can provide assistance for getting most of these tools up and running. But the best part is you're not going to run into that many issues because we already know what they are. We've been working with these things for so many years now that we are familiar with any of the common pitfalls that you might run into and can prevent them from ever cropping up. And it could be something simple like you forgot to do your backups. Well, we handle those. We take care of all the backups, so you don't have to worry about that. Maybe you need to lock down a user profile because one of your employees has been let go because they were a little unhappy. This has happened to us for some of our AWS users already. It sucks when it happens, but it's part of the real world. When you reach out to us, we can actually shut that down, not just for one program. We shut them out of the entire server at your request. So we can help you control access and never lose data. We also have a full history of what's being done on these machines as well. Who's logging in, where they're logging in, how often they're doing this information. And if you need that, we can provide it for you as well so that you can track performance of your team at any point. Now, one of the things that we're developing right now is a new program or a new plan for the construction or the CS Cloud servers as well. Our current plans that we have available allow you to subscribe to CS Cloud and you pay a flat rate for the number of users that you're going to have. You pick those users at the beginning of your contract and you move on from there. We're adjusting this a little bit because we've seen it's been an almost unanimous, almost a complete pattern of growth for all of our users. Everybody's expanding. And with those expansions, we're developing a new plan that allows you to adjust either up and down the number of users you have constantly. So you can always just go in there and kind of adjust who you have and what you're working with at any given point. And these new flex plans or plus plans would allow you a lot more flexibility if you want to keep the cost low to get started, but then expand into a much bigger package or a much bigger plan later. Now, as you're making those adjustments as well, you'll only have a few moments of downtime if you needed to expand quickly. So if you're going from a team of 2 to a team of 7, you'd be looking at, again, seconds of downtime, tops, to get the server scaled up to handle all of the additional workload, to get all of these different things. And again, if you're comparing this to how it was maybe 5 years ago, if you had that much of an expansion and you had to increase your server to be able to handle that many more people, again, you have to buy a new one. You have to start over from scratch, and it costs you thousands and thousands of dollars. With these, you're just paying for the additional users, and again, give us a call. We'll have it set up. 5 minutes later, you've got five times more powerful a machine. Again, this is kind of how it's set. And at any point, if you're concerned about your performance or scaling, or you've run out of space and you'd like to reach out to us to add on an additional data drive or something like that, give us a call. In fact, that's even a recommendation if you're working with software like Dropbox or OneDrive. You want to have something that's constantly syncing up your details? No problem. What we recommend in those cases is set up an additional drive like a D drive or a data drive. Most of us have something like this already. We'll configure Dropbox to fill that up. And this way you don't take a performance hit on the server by having it always trying to write information to the C drive where you're doing all your work like ConstructionSuite and QuickBooks. Instead, it's just filling up your data drive with all of your common business files. Alternatively, maybe if you're looking at like the documents folder over there, you could just create a shortcut to your local Dropbox folder, and then you don't even have to let it sync. It can all happen on your local computers instead. But again, the flexibility here is endless. So as you're working through this, all of this information is going to be available to you all the time through the cloud with no downtime, no concerns. I think as we're going through this, again, as we approach that 2-year mark, we have seen nothing but success from this entire platform. And I think my favorite part about this whole experience too is this is probably our 5th or 6th attempt at implementing some kind of cloud-hosted solution like this. Originally, we had servers set up that they just did not meet our expectations. They just wouldn't get the job done. And that was probably about 8 years ago that we first tried those. Technology wasn't really there. We didn't really like it. We hadn't found Amazon yet at that point, I suppose.
Well, I don't think that they'd found their way into web services at that point, or maybe they had, but it was just getting off the ground. And I think what we've seen over the past, even just 5 years, is that the technology has reached a point where not only do we have faith in it, but it just works. It just works. It's been so rewarding in my day-to-day here at UDA Technologies to work with our cloud services companies and to just know that it works. You know, they might call in with a question about how to do something in ConstructionSuite, but it's never a question of, well, you know, I was trying to do this, but I can't get back to the office right now. How do I get a copy from my desktop? How do I migrate that over? You don't have to worry about that for any of the desktop software that you're using if you move over to the cloud. It just works.
Yeah. And of course, if you're interested in UDA Cloud Services, you can always give us a call or reach out to us. For those of you who are using ConstructionSuite already, just go up to the Help menu, find the Contact Information section, and you'll find our phone numbers here. You can just give us a call at the 800 number. It's probably going to be under sales if you guys are interested in having a conversation there. So call us at 1-800-700-8321. If you'd like to send us an email, again, sales or info@uda1.com is perfect. If you haven't reached out to one of our cloud services consultants yet, I recommend you do it today. Again, it doesn't cost you anything to ask questions. So you should definitely reach out to us to talk about all of these different offers and tools and things like that are available. So any questions, reach out to us here. For those of you using ConstructionOnline, you'll also find a similar set of information on the web page. I think most of it's going to be down near the bottom of the page. Or if you just visit us at udatechnologies.com or constructiononline.com, all of that information will be there as well. So give us a call. If you're currently using some cloud-hosted softwares like a Cloud9 or a Rackspace or a Citrix Online or something, also give us a call. We'd be happy to do some price comparisons. What you'll find is that our services that we offer through UDA Cloud Services actually come in under most of our competition, not only because we're a software vendor, we're not a cloud hosting company exclusively, so we don't have to make up all of our money from there, but also because we are, through our partnership with Amazon, we're able to take the resources that they provide at a very low price point because of their global scale. They have what they call an economy of scale. They have so much that the price is so small for each individual piece that we need to use. And we pass those savings on to you. You'll also find that our service time tends to be much better as well because, again, we already know the tools. Myself and Jordan have so much experience working with things like QuickBooks and PlanSwift, ConstructionSuite, of course. We've got a number of pro advisors on staff for all these tools. So as you're looking through it, we know the tools. We're the construction experts here, and we know what kind of tools you guys are working with, and we can provide a lot of experience and expertise leveraging these things to your advantage without having, the massive headaches of working with tech junkies all the time. Although we kind of are tech junkies too. We keep it out of work.
I think we listen.
That might be a difference. Well, it's definitely one. But ultimately, we offer a lot of these resources for your success. Not just because we want to have these tools available, but our goal is your success. And so we want to make sure that you have the best, most cutting-edge tools available to help you destroy your competition too. And the easiest way to do that, to find out if these tools are going to be right, is once again, just give us a call or send us an email anytime. We are happy to have the discussion. We're happy to do some price comparisons for you as well if you guys are looking to move away from the older models for your cloud hosting services or to just upgrade and modernize your companies. We'll help you guys get off the old in-house servers too if you guys are interested in becoming more mobile and more effective on the move. So give us a call anytime. We'd love to talk to you guys there. If you are interested in kind of recapping any of this information, don't forget, all of this information is going to be recorded and available to you through our website. Once again, let's minimize this for a moment. All you need to do is just go back to ConstructionOnline.com from here, or UDATechnologies.com. Go back to the main site. You can find everything, of course, about the webinars that we're hosting when you go to the events page at UDATechnologies.com. And if you're interested in finding out a little bit more on the web and you guys want to read up on the cloud services that we offer, you can find us under products here on UDATechnologies.com, where we talk about not only all of the offers and the tools that we have available, but we also share with you some of the benefits of partnering through UDA with Amazon as well. We talk about all the different access points, all of the different, again, server locations, the redundancy and everything like that. So if you're interested in any of these tools or resources, again, you can find them all on the website or contact us. We're happy to share all of this information and more just by giving us a call or shooting us an email. For now, though, doesn't look like we have any more questions on deck. So if you guys do have any questions before we let you go, you got a few minutes to shoot them our way. We'd love to kind of cover any additional questions that you guys might have. For those of you who are pretty happy with what you've seen and you guys are ready to get signed up, again, give us a call. We'll talk to you shortly. And for those of you who are interested in our next in the series of webinars, we should have the rest of our webinars for all of August going live in the next couple of days. So go back to that events page and take a look. Next week on Wednesday, we'll be continuing our series of Lunch and Learns. So we'll have one, maybe myself and Holly again for that one. So don't forget to keep an eye on those. We'll send out announcements and everything like that as they become available to you guys. And hopefully we'll have a chance to see you again there. Otherwise, everybody, I think that's it. That's a wrap. So at this point, I think we're going to let you guys get back to your afternoon. So once again, thank you all for joining us today. It's been a pleasure hosting for you. Again, I've got some names on here for some people that it looks like we need to reach out to now, so happy to have that talk. For everyone else, though, again, thank you for your time, guys, and have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.